I was under a sink in a Fishtown row home on a Tuesday afternoon when my entire life fell apart. The homeowner, nice lady, probably mid-60s, was upstairs making tea while I worked on her garbage disposal. My hands were cramped around a wrench, cold water dripping on my forehead when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I almost ignored it, should have ignored it, but something made me pull it out, and that's when I saw the notification. A text message. Except it wasn't sent to me. It was from my wife Lauren's phone, auto-synced to the iPad I'd left at home that morning. The preview made my hands stop moving. Once we tank his reputation with the Barrett job, we can take everything in the divorce. He'll be too broken to fight back. The wrench slipped. Water sprayed my face. I couldn't breathe. The fluorescent light under the sink seemed too bright. The small space too tight. My ears were ringing. I read it again, then again. It had to be wrong. A hacked phone. Some scam. Lauren wouldn't. We'd been together 13 years, married for 11. That morning, she'd kissed me goodbye, said, "I love you," in that way she always did, one hand on my chest. Yesterday, we'd been looking at vacation packages to Ireland. Last week, she'd convinced me to add her name to the business bank account, just for emergencies. My hands were shaking as I scrolled up through the messages, months of them, photos I couldn't unsee, detailed plans laid out like a business proposal, and the contact name at the top, G.W., Gregory Walsh. My stomach dropped. Gregory Walsh owned Walsh Construction, my biggest competitor in Philadelphia. The guy I'd been underbidding for years, the one who always showed up at the same networking events, always too friendly, always asking about my projects. I kept scrolling. Lauren had been feeding him everything. Client lists, project details, my bids before I even submitted them. They were planning something specific. Sabotage the Barrett renovation. That was my biggest job, a $180,000 contract to renovate a mainline family's entire home. The job that was supposed to take O'Connor Electric to the next level. They were going to destroy it. Tank my reputation. Then Lauren would file for divorce when I was at my most vulnerable. My business circling the drain and take everything. If you've ever had that moment where everything you thought was real just shatters, you know that sound. It's not loud. It's this terrible silence where the world just stops making sense. I don't know how long I stayed under that sink. 10 minutes, 20. Not because I was frozen, though my body felt like stone. Because I was thinking. I finished the repair, collected the check, drove my F-150 through afternoon traffic on Frankfurt Avenue like nothing had happened. My hands were steady on the wheel. My face was calm. Inside, I was screaming. I pulled into our driveway in Mayfair, a narrow row home street where everyone knew everyone, where I'd lived for 8 years, and sat there for a full minute before going inside. Lauren was in the kitchen making dinner, pasta, from the smell of it. She turned when I walked in, smiled that warm smile I'd trusted completely. "Hey babe, how was your day?" I kissed her hello, tasted the lie on her lips. "Fine," I said. "Same old stuff. Maybe you've been there, lying in bed next to someone, wondering when they stop being on your side." That night, I couldn't sleep. Lauren was curled against me, her breathing soft and even. I stared at the ceiling and replayed our entire relationship like a movie, looking for the moment it all went wrong. When did I become a mark instead of a husband? My father died of a heart attack at 54. Union electrician, worked himself to death trying to provide for us. I learned the trade from him when I was 16, got my apprentice license at 18, master electrician at 27. Started O'Connor Electric when I was 29 with $15,000 borrowed from my mom. The first year, I made $42,000 in revenue, just me and a beat-up F-150 with 200,000 miles on it. I worked 16-hour days, answered calls at midnight, drove through snowstorms to fix heating systems. Slowly, over years, it grew. I met Lauren when I was 31. She was an office manager at an electrical supply company, pretty, smart, organized, everything I wasn't. She understood the business side of contracting, helped me with paperwork, taught me how to invoice properly. We dated for 2 years. Got married in my mom's backyard in Kensington. Small wedding, maybe 30 people, more of a cookout than a ceremony. Lauren quit her job to run the office for O'Connor Electric. It seemed perfect. She handled scheduling, invoices, insurance, while I focused on the work. We were a team. Over 11 years, we grew the business to 4 employees and $750,000 in annual revenue. We bought the row home in Mayfair for $285,000. Not fancy, but ours. I had 2 work vans, tools worth $60,000, an established client base throughout Philadelphia. Mainline families trusted me. Property managers called me first. I'd built a reputation for quality work and fair prices. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Finally, the Barrett job was supposed to be the breakthrough. A complete home renovation, electrical, smart home system, the works. Mrs. Barrett had specifically asked for me, said her neighbor recommended O'Connor Electric. I'd underbid Gregory Walsh by $3,000 and won the contract. Now I understood. Lauren had set it up. She'd made sure I got the job so they could sabotage it, destroy my reputation in the community where reputation was everything. I gave Lauren access to everything: bank accounts, client files, bid information. She attended networking events with me, knew all my competitors, all my clients. I never questioned it. She was my wife, my partner. Looking back, the signs were there. Gregory's divorce 2 years ago, Lauren had been so sympathetic, so interested in the details. 6 months ago, when Lauren suggested restructuring the business liability, setting up new accounts, adding her name to everything, I'd thought she was being smart, protecting us. She was preparing to take it all. The stakes were brutal. The business was worth about $400,000. The house had $180,000 in equity. We had $95,000 in retirement accounts, and the business account had $67,000 in it right then. If the Barrett job failed, I could face a lawsuit, potentially lose my license. 11 years of work, gone. And my mom. She was battling cancer, living in the same Kensington house where I grew up, the house where my dad died. She was so proud of O'Connor Electric, of what I'd built. Lauren knew about my father dying young from stress. She'd held me on the anniversary, said, "We're building something together so you don't have to work yourself to death like he did." Every intimate moment, every "I love you," every plan for the future, all lies while she was planning my destruction. You know what the worst part is? It wasn't just losing her. It was realizing I'd invited the enemy into my own home, gave her the keys to everything I'd built. For the next 48 hours, I acted completely normal. That first night, Lauren snuggled into me on the couch while we watched TV. She asked about my day. I smiled, lied smoothly, told her about the Fishtown job. Meanwhile, she was texting Gregory on her phone, angling it away from me, but not quite enough. I could see his name lighting up the screen. The second night, we had dinner at the kitchen table. She complained about her sister, some family drama I'd heard 100 times. I nodded, sympathized, secretly taking screenshots of every message on the iPad while she showered. My stomach was in knots. I barely slept. My jaw ached from clenching it, but my poker face was perfect. If you've ever had to pretend everything's fine while your world's falling apart, you know what that does to you. It's like living in a movie where you're the only one who knows the ending. On the third day, I called Ben Carter. Ben was my first apprentice, worked for me for 5 years before starting his own electrical company. Good guy, honest. We'd stayed friends, grabbed beers every few months, talked shop. If there was anyone in Philadelphia I could trust, it was Ben. We met at John's Roast Pork in South Philly at 6 in the morning. The place smelled like grease and coffee and possibility. Ben slid into the booth across from me, took one look at my face and said, "What's wrong?" I told him everything. The messages, the affair, the sabotage plan, the timeline. Ben's face went red. His hands clenched into fists. "That son of a bitch? Walsh? Are you serious?" "Dead serious. What do you need?" I took a breath. "I need to sell you the business, fast, fair price, but quiet." Ben stared at me. "You're leaving?" "I'm done with this city, Ben. I stay here. They win. They'll drag me through courts, destroy my reputation, take everything anyway. I disappear. They get nothing." "Where will you go?" "West, Montana maybe. Somewhere they can't touch me." We sketched the deal on a napkin. $320,000 for the business, client list, equipment, existing contracts, the O'Connor Electric name. Ben would hire my 4 employees, honor all the contracts, including Barrett. He had the capital. He'd been saving, planning to expand. 3 weeks to close, I said. Can you do it? Ben's jaw tightened. For you? Hell yes. And I'm finishing that Barrett job perfect, so Walsh's plan fails even without you here. I shook his hand. My throat was tight. You're a good man, Ben. So are you. That's why they targeted you. That Saturday morning, I met with Patrick O'Malley. Patrick was a lawyer friend from the neighborhood, good Irish Catholic kid who'd gone to Temple Law and never left Philly. His office was in Rittenhouse Square, small practice, mostly family law and small business stuff. Patrick listened to everything, took notes, didn't interrupt. When I finished, he sat back and whistled. That's cold. Strategic, but cold. Is it legal, what I want to do? Patrick tapped his pen on the desk. Pennsylvania isn't a community property state like California. Marital assets get divided equitably, but not automatically 50-50. Here's the move. You sell the business before filing for divorce. It's a legitimate business sale, arm's-length transaction, fair market value. You're not hiding assets. You're liquidating them, which you have every right to do. And the money? Set up an LLC in Montana, transfer the sale proceeds there, then file for divorce. She can argue it's marital property, but you sold a business you had every right to sell. The timing's aggressive, but legal. She'll fight. Let her. You've got documentation of her theft, her conspiracy with Walsh. That's grounds for fault-based divorce, and it'll kill any claim she has to equitable distribution. How much? $5,000 retainer to handle the divorce. I wrote the check. My hand didn't shake. Some people might say I should have confronted her, worked it out. But you can't negotiate with someone who's already planned your destruction. Over the next 2 weeks, I systematically dismantled my life in Philadelphia. I opened a new bank account in Montana. Glacier Bank, Missoula branch. Did it online? Simple as that. I researched small towns, looking for someplace quiet, affordable, far from everything I knew. Whitefish kept coming up. Then I found Cedar Ridge, smaller, 20 miles south, population 3,400, mountains everywhere, low cost of living, perfect. I sold our furniture on Facebook Marketplace, told Lauren I was decluttering, and she actually seemed pleased. You're finally getting organized, she said, not realizing I was erasing our life piece by piece. I moved sentimental items to a storage unit she didn't know about. My dad's old tool belt, photos of my mom, the things that mattered. I transferred the tools I wanted to keep to Ben, sold the rest. Backed up all my personal files. Quietly, methodically, I prepared to disappear. Meanwhile, Lauren and Gregory were moving forward with their plan. Lauren accidentally double-booked me on the Barrett timeline, trying to create scheduling conflicts. Gregory's guys showed up at the Barrett site offering to help. I declined, said I had it handled. Lauren kept pushing me to use Gregory's preferred supplier for materials. I refused every time. She had no idea I was 10 steps ahead. The business sale closed on a Thursday. $320,000 wired to my Montana LLC account. I watched the money clear, felt something loosen in my chest. Friday, I told my 4 employees privately. Pulled them aside one by one at the shop. Ben's buying the business. You'll all keep your jobs, same pay, same benefits. He's a good boss, better than me, probably. They were shocked, asked why. I didn't tell them everything, just said, personal reasons, time for a change. They understood. In this life, people leave. They shook my hand, thanked me for the years. One of them, Danny, said, "You gave me a shot when nobody else would. I won't forget that." Saturday morning, I served Lauren with divorce papers. I'd been up since 5, packed the truck in darkness. When she came downstairs at 8, I was sitting at the kitchen table with 2 cups of coffee and an envelope. "We need to talk," I said. She sat down, curious. "What's this about?" I slid the envelope across the table. "I'm filing for divorce." Her face went blank. Then she opened the envelope, read the first page. Her expression cycled through shock, rage, tears, then something calculating. "You can't do this," she said, voice shaking. "The business is half mine." "I sold it 3 days ago, all legal." The color drained from her face. "You... what?" "I sold O'Connor Electric to Ben Carter. The money's gone. You won't see a dime." She grabbed her phone, hands shaking, called Gregory. I could hear his voice through the speaker as she screamed, "He knows! He sold everything. We have nothing." Gregory furious. "That's impossible. Get a lawyer." We'll sue him for hiding assets. Good luck with that, I said calmly. I've got screenshots of every text, every plan you two made. Theft of trade secrets, conspiracy. Your lawyer's going to love those. Lauren's face twisted. You bastard! No, I said, standing up. I'm just someone who finally saw you clearly. I texted Patrick. She knows, moving timeline up. Sunday morning, 5 a.m., I loaded the last of my things into my F-150. Tools I'd kept, clothes, my dad's tool belt, my mom's photo albums. Everything I needed fit in a truck bed with a tonneau cap. I left a note on the kitchen table. I'm done being your mark. You and Gregory deserve each other. My lawyer will contact you. I drove away from Mayfair as the sun rose. Last look at the row home, the narrow street, the life I'd built. Then I faced forward and didn't look back. I had $320,000, a truck full of tools, and a full tank of gas pointed west. Lauren and Gregory thought they'd destroyed me. They had no idea I was already gone. The drive across America changed something in me. 2,000 miles. Pennsylvania to Ohio to South Dakota to Montana. Each state loosened something in my chest. The landscape opened up, cornfields giving way to prairie, giving way to mountains. By the time I crossed into Montana and saw the Big Sky country sign, I could breathe again. I arrived in Missoula on a Tuesday evening, drove north toward Whitefish, then took a smaller highway to Cedar Ridge, population 3,400, according to the sign. Main Street had brick buildings from another era, mom-and-pop shops, flower boxes in the windows. Mountains rose in every direction, snow-capped even in late spring. People waved at me from the sidewalk, just waved at a stranger in a truck with Pennsylvania plates. I stopped at a gas station. The cashier, an older guy with a weathered face, said, "Welcome to Cedar Ridge. Passing through?" "Maybe staying," I said. "Good choice. It's a fine place to land." I booked a room at the Cedar Creek Inn, small motel on the edge of town, $65 a night. Clean, with a view of mountains from the window. I sat on the bed and felt the silence. No traffic, no sirens, no neighbors through thin walls. Just quiet. If you've ever felt invisible, like nobody really sees you, Montana was the opposite. People looked you in the eye, remembered your name, showed up when they said they would. Monday morning, I walked into Glacier Bank in Missoula and opened my accounts officially. The bank manager was a woman in her 50s, Dorothy Miller, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. "What brings you to Montana?" she asked while processing paperwork. I could have lied. Instead, I said, "Bad divorce. Needed a fresh start." She nodded like she'd heard it before. "Well, you picked the right place. Folks here mind their business and help their neighbors. You'll fit in just fine." Tuesday, I explored Cedar Ridge. Main Street had Emma's Diner, Miller's Hardware, a bookstore, a small grocery store, a bar called the Timber Lodge. The real estate office had listings in the window. One caught my eye. 5 acres outside town, $85,000, included an old garage structure. Wednesday, I met Frank Peterson. I was at Miller's Hardware looking at electrical supplies when an older guy in an Army veteran cap struck up a conversation. He was buying fencing, saw me studying wire specifications. "You an electrician?" he asked. "Was, in Philadelphia." "Were you good?" I met his eyes. "Yeah, I was good." He stuck out his hand. "Frank Peterson, my barn needs rewiring. You looking for work?" "Actually, yeah." "Come out tomorrow. Let's see what you can do." Frank's ranch was 8 miles outside town. Beautiful property with mountain views and horses grazing in pastures. The barn was old but solid, the wiring a fire hazard waiting to happen. I spent 2 days rewiring it. Frank didn't pry, but he listened when I talked. Told him about Philadelphia, about Lauren, about walking away from everything. When I finished, Frank handed me $800 cash. "Quality work. Word gets around here. You'll have more jobs by next week." He was right. Saturday morning, I ate breakfast at Emma's Diner. The place was classic small town. Checkered floor, vinyl booths, a counter with chrome stools, coffee pots on warmers, a pie display case that made my mouth water. It was packed with locals, ranchers in flannel, retirees reading newspapers, families with kids. A woman in her 30s refilled my coffee. Ponytail, jeans, flannel shirt, warm smile, tired eyes. "You're new," she said. I know everyone's coffee order. Just moved. Michael O'Connor. Emma Thompson. Welcome to Cedar Ridge. Where from? Philadelphia. That's a long way. Running from or running to? The question surprised me. Little of both. Her smile softened. I get that. Been there myself. She moved on to other customers, but something about that brief exchange stayed with me. Emma wasn't nosy, didn't push, just acknowledged that sometimes people need to start over. I started coming to Emma's every morning. We'd chat briefly while she refilled my coffee. I learned she owned the diner, raised her son Jake alone after her ex left when the kid was 3. She'd moved to Cedar Ridge 6 years ago from Boise, bought the diner 5 years back. She worked hard, was respected in town, and had the kind of tired but genuine smile that comes from someone who's survived something difficult. Word spread fast in Cedar Ridge. Electrician from Philly, does good work. My phone started ringing. Rewire a garage, install ceiling fans, upgrade a panel box. Small jobs, but steady. I met Ray Sullivan at his auto repair shop. Ray was 50, built like he worked with his hands, with a quick laugh and a straight shooter attitude. Heard you're handy, he said. Want to help me build a shop expansion? I need electrical run. We worked together for 2 weeks. Ray was funny, easy to be around, and by the end of it, we were friends. One evening, over beers at the Timber Lodge, Ray asked, "What brought you out here, really?" Maybe it was the beer, or the fact that I was 2,000 miles from Philadelphia, or that Ray felt safe. I told him, the whole story. When I finished, Ray was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "And you just left? Sold everything?" Legally, cleanly. Ray grinned. "Good for you, man. That takes guts." The community started feeling like home in a way Philadelphia never had. Frank invited me to Sunday dinner. His wife Martha made pot roast that tasted like my grandmother's. Ray included me in the weekly poker game at his garage with 5 local guys. Dorothy from the bank invited me to church. I declined politely. She wasn't offended. The hardware store owner, Bill Miller, learned my name within a week, started setting aside supplies he thought I might need. Maybe you've had that moment where you realize you've been holding your breath for years, and you can finally exhale. 2 months in, I bought the 5-acre property. $85,000 cash. The old garage on site was 30 by 40. Needed work, but the structure was solid. I spent a month renovating it. New concrete floor, electrical, heating, 2 roll-up doors. Frank and Ray helped on weekends. I realized something during that month. This is what community feels like. People show up because they want to, not because they owe you. I set up the space as half garage for repairs and maintenance, half woodworking shop. I'd always wanted to do custom furniture, cabinets, the kind of work where you could see beauty in the finished product. Ordered tools, set up my LLC, O'Connor Electrical and Woodworking. The small cabin on the property, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, needed fixing, became my project. I moved in and worked on it gradually. New plumbing, better insulation, rebuilt the porch. It wasn't much, but it was mine. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. I'd been in Cedar Ridge 2 months when Jake sat down at my booth at Emma's diner. He was 12, gangly in that way kids are before growth spurts, with his mom's smile and curious eyes. "Mom says you're from Philadelphia," he said. "Did you see the Liberty Bell?" "Every time I drove past it," I said. "You into history?" "Yeah, we're studying the Revolution in school." We talked for 20 minutes. Jake was smart, polite, asked good questions. When Emma came over to apologize for her son bothering me, I waved her off. "Not at all. He's a great kid." Emma's expression softened. "Thanks. I try." "You're doing more than trying." Something passed between us then. Recognition, understanding. A few weeks later, I ran into Emma and Jake at Miller's Hardware. Jake was looking at fishing rods. His birthday was coming up, Emma mentioned. I helped him pick one, explained the differences between spinning and casting reels, told him about fishing the Pocono Mountains with my dad every summer. "You don't have to," Emma started. "I don't mind," I said. "My dad taught me. Happy to pass it on." We got coffee at the small shop next door while Jake looked at books. Emma told me more about herself. Married young at 22. Husband, Tyler, was charming, then controlling. Left when Jake was 3, barely called anymore. She'd moved to Cedar Ridge for the same reason I had. Needed somewhere small, safe, affordable, somewhere to breathe. I shared more, too. About Lauren, Gregory, the betrayal. About selling everything and driving west. "Do you regret it?" Emma asked. "Leaving?" "Not even a little." She smiled. "Good. Running away from the wrong thing is the same as running toward the right thing." I started spending time with Emma and Jake. Not forced, just natural. I taught Jake to fish at Clearwater River on Sundays. Fixed the wiring at Emma's diner. She tried to pay me, but I refused, so she made me dinner instead. Jake asked me to help with a school project, building a miniature house with working electrical. I was thrilled. Emma invited me to Jake's 13th birthday party in her backyard. Small gathering, a few kids from school, barbecue, cake. I brought Jake a nice fishing tackle box. He hugged me, said it was the best present ever. I noticed things. Jake didn't have a male role model. Tyler hadn't called in 8 months. The kid was hungry for attention, for guidance, for someone who showed up consistently. I was careful not to overstep, but I was present, Frank noticed. Over coffee one morning at my shop, he said, "That boy lights up when you're around. Emma too?" I stared into my coffee cup. "I just got out of something that almost destroyed me, Frank." "Son, that wasn't love. That was a business deal gone bad. This?" He gestured vaguely toward town. "This is real people. Don't run from it because you're scared." Late one evening, after Jake was asleep, Emma and I sat on her porch. She had a small house near town, yard with an old swing set from when Jake was little. The mountains were dark shapes against the stars. "You're not him, you know," Emma said quietly. "Not who?" "Tyler, or your ex. You're not them." I looked at her. "How do you know?" "Because you show up. Every time you say you will, you're there. You mean what you say. That's rare." My voice came out rough. "So do you." We kissed, gentle, tentative, both of us scared, both of us crying a little, laughing at ourselves. It wasn't fireworks, it was something better. Safe, real, right. If you've ever been scared to let someone in again, you know that feeling. Like you're standing at the edge of something beautiful, but part of you remembers the fall. Over the next 2 months, we became a unit. I had dinner at Emma's 3 or 4 times a week. Jake called me Michael, but treated me like a dad. Asked my opinion on things, wanted me at his soccer games, saved drawings and homework to show me. Emma and I talked every night, either on her porch or during walks around town, or on the phone when we couldn't be together. The community noticed, approved. They were good together, people said. About time, Emma found someone decent. I met Emma's mom, who lived in town and helped at the diner. She liked me, which felt important. One evening, Jake asked me, "Are you going to stay? Like, really stay?" I looked at this kid who'd somehow become part of my heart. "Yeah, buddy, I'm staying." "Good." His voice was small. "We need you." My chest tightened. I needed them too. Maybe you've met someone who makes you believe people can be good again. That's what Emma and Jake were for me. For the first time in my life, I had something I'd never had with Lauren, a real family. People who saw me, valued me, chose me every day. I should have known it was too good to last. 5 months into my Montana life, I got a certified letter at my property. My hands shook as I opened it. Law firm in Philadelphia representing Lauren O'Connor, lawsuit for fraudulent transfer of assets, hiding marital property, demanding $200,000 in settlement plus ongoing spousal support. They claimed I'd sold the business to hide money from the divorce, that I owed Lauren half of everything, including the Montana property I'd bought with marital funds. I sat on my porch steps, letter crumpling in my fist. Just when I'd found peace, when I'd built something real, the past was dragging me back. I called Patrick O'Malley in Philadelphia. "It's a bullshit case," Patrick said, "but you need a Montana lawyer. I'll consult behind the scenes." I hired Jennifer Reeves in Missoula, sharp woman in her 40s, experienced in complex divorce cases. She reviewed everything, the timeline, the sale, the finances. "You sold the business before filing for divorce. That's clean. But they're going to fight dirty. Discovery, depositions, it'll be months of stress. Can they win? Not if we show the truth, but they can make it expensive." The discovery process began. Depositions, financial records, interrogatories. My Montana life, the peace I'd built, was invaded by Philadelphia lawyers and old wounds. Then Gregory escalated. He called the Montana State Electrical Board with an anonymous complaint, claimed I was doing electrical work without proper Montana credentials, that I'd misrepresented my qualifications. The board investigated. Turned out I'd filed all the proper paperwork. Montana has reciprocity with Pennsylvania, and my license transferred cleanly. The complaint was dismissed. But Gregory wasn't done. He started calling my old Philadelphia clients, bad-mouthing me. Michael O'Connor scammed us and disappeared. Ben Carter called me, furious. Gregory sent an email blast to half your old client list. He's saying you abandoned contracts, stole money. Let him, I said, though my stomach was churning. Anyone who knows me knows it's bullshit. But the stress was bleeding into my Montana life. I was distracted, worried. Emma noticed. Talk to me, she said one evening. I left everything, and they're still trying to destroy me. She took my hand. They can't touch you here. We won't let them. Then Jennifer called with news. We dug into Lauren and Gregory's finances during discovery. You need to see this. The evidence was damning. Lauren had transferred $15,000 from the O'Connor Electric account to her personal account 2 days before I discovered the texts. Gregory had paid Lauren $8,000 as a consulting fee, but there was no consulting work, just affair money. More, email chains where Lauren sent Gregory my client list, my bid details, my project schedules, trade secret theft, and the Barrett job sabotage, text messages planning it in detail. Gregory had paid Barrett's project manager $5,000 to complain about my work, to create problems that didn't exist. The PM got cold feet when investigators showed up. Confessed everything. This isn't a divorce case anymore, Jennifer said. This is fraud, conspiracy, possibly RICO. We report this to the DA. They're facing criminal charges. What does that mean for me? It means they're done. They committed crimes. You're going to walk away clean. Patrick filed complaints with the Philadelphia DA. Pennsylvania State Police opened an investigation. Gregory Walsh's business was raided, computers seized, records pulled. The Barrett PM testified in detail about the bribery scheme. Gregory was arrested, charged with fraud, commercial bribery, conspiracy. Lauren was charged with conspiracy and theft. Local Philadelphia news covered it. Contractor accused of sabotaging competitor. Gregory's business collapsed. Clients fled. Banks called his loans. Walsh Construction filed for bankruptcy. Gregory lost his house, his assets seized. Lauren's life imploded. She couldn't afford a lawyer, moved in with her sister, worked retail. Gregory blamed her, and their relationship ended bitterly. Jennifer filed a motion to dismiss Lauren's lawsuit. Plaintiff has unclean hands, committed fraud during marriage. The judge agreed. Case dismissed with prejudice. Lauren was ordered to pay my legal fees, $18,000. Patrick called with the final update. They both pled guilty to reduced charges, probation, fines, restitution. Gregory's contractor license is suspended for 5 years. Lauren's prohibited from owning a business in Pennsylvania. It's over, Michael. They're done. I sat on my porch, phone in hand, staring at the mountains. How do you feel? Emma asked that evening. She'd come over when I called, knew I needed her. Like I can finally let it go. I didn't celebrate their downfall, didn't feel triumph, just relief. I wrote Ben a short email. Thanks for standing by me, the truth came out. His response, never doubted you, come visit sometime. I realized I didn't want to visit Philadelphia, not even to see Ben. Montana was home now. If you've ever waited for the truth to come out, you know that feeling. Not revenge, just wanting the lies to stop working. 1 year after I'd left Philadelphia, my life in Montana had become something I'd never imagined possible. O'Connor Electrical and Woodworking was thriving. I had steady electrical contracts, residential, some small commercial. And the woodworking side was growing. Custom furniture, cabinets, built-ins. People drove from Missoula and Kalispell to commission pieces. I'd hired a 19-year-old apprentice, Tyler, a local kid eager to learn both trades. First-year revenue, $180,000, sustainable, satisfying. I worked 8 to 5, rarely weekends, made enough to live well without killing myself. My property was beautiful now. The cabin was renovated, cozy 2-bedroom with a wood stove and mountain views. The shop was organized, tools displayed with pride. Emma had helped me plant a small garden. My routine felt right. Work during the day, dinner with Emma and Jake 5 nights a week. Frank stopped by most mornings for coffee. Poker with Ray and the guys every Thursday. Sundays, church with Emma, I'd started going. Then family dinner. On a spring evening, I took Emma to an overlook above Clearwater River. Sunset painted the mountains pink and gold. Jake was at a friend's house. I'd arranged it. A year ago, I said, I didn't think I'd ever trust anyone again. Emma took my hand. Me neither. You and Jake. You showed me what real family is. Michael. I pulled out the ring. Simple, beautiful, the kind of thing Emma would actually wear. Will you marry me? She was crying. Yes. Absolutely yes. We kissed, laughed, cried together. I need to ask Jake's permission, I said. Emma smiled through tears. He'll say yes. He already thinks of you as his dad. Later that evening, I sat Jake down. I asked your mom to marry me. She said yes, but I need to know, are you okay with that? Jake was grinning so wide. Does this mean I can call you Dad? My voice broke. I'd be honored. He hugged me tight. I hoped you'd stay forever. 6 months later, we got married in Emma's backyard. String lights, 40 people, all friends from Cedar Ridge. Ben flew out from Philadelphia. It was good to see him, but I was glad when he left. That life felt like a dream now. Frank officiated. He'd gotten ordained online just for us. Jake was my best man, wearing a suit he'd picked himself. So proud. Emma wore a simple dress, flowers in her hair, beautiful in that way that comes from being genuinely happy. My vows were simple. I promised to show up, to be present, to be the man you and Jake deserve. Emma promised to trust, to build a life together, to be my home. The community celebrated with us. Emma's diner hosted the reception, potluck style. Everyone brought dishes. There was dancing, laughter, joy. My first dance with Emma, then I danced with Jake. He whispered, "Thanks for choosing us." "You chose me first," I said. A month later, on a quiet Sunday morning, I was in my workshop building Jake a desk for school, custom piece, maple and walnut, with built-in charging stations and LED lighting. Emma brought me coffee, leaned against the doorframe, watching me work. "Do you ever think about Philadelphia?" she asked. I sanded a joint smooth. Sometimes, not with anger anymore. It feels like someone else's life. "Do you miss it?" "Not even a little. Everything I need is right here." I paused, set down the sanding block. "You know what's weird? If Lauren hadn't betrayed me, I'd still be there, miserable, not even knowing it." Emma smiled. "So you're grateful?" "I'm grateful for where I ended up. For you, Jake, this life. The pain got me here. But I wouldn't go back for anything. If you're in a place right now where everything feels wrong, know this. Sometimes losing everything is how you find what actually matters." Later that afternoon, I stood at my workshop window, watching Emma and Jake in the yard. They were trying to teach our new dog, a rescue mutt we'd adopted last month, to catch a frisbee. Jake was laughing so hard he could barely stand. Emma was taking photos, her face bright with happiness. The mountains rose behind them, snow-capped and eternal. The shop smelled like fresh-cut wood and possibility. My hands, the same hands that had frozen under a sink in Philadelphia, reading a text that shattered my world, were callous now in different ways. Building instead of fixing, creating instead of surviving. Some people spend their whole lives looking for home. I found mine by losing everything else. Turns out, home isn't a place. It's the people who see you, choose you, and stay. I left Philadelphia with a truck full of tools and a heart full of anger. I found Montana, Emma, Jake, and a life I didn't even know I was allowed to want. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is the best thing that ever could have. You deserve people who choose you every single day. Don't settle for less. I'm Michael O'Connor, and this is my story.